Can you say your name and talk about what you do for work?
My name is Emma Overmyer, and I am a associate 3D artist here at Pipeworks Studios. And what that means is, being an associate, I'm kind of very early on in my career, and so I'm doing a lot of like new stuff, but I'm also helping out where I can and just like being put on projects, doing like the newer stuff for people, like doing the stuff. How do I want to say this? Like doing stuff that seems easier at the time until like I have more expertise in order to do like more difficult stuff. And I also have to go to an art director and talk to them a lot about different things, because I have to report to someone. I'm not in a position yet to be trusted with like more advanced responsibilities. That's would be like the next part in my career, would be moving up to that. But yeah, as an associate artist, I get put on different projects and do art basically wherever I can do art at. So
What sorts of things were you interested in when you were younger?
yeah, so as a kid, I always loved to draw. My mom said that when I was younger, I used to like leave parties and stuff like that, and I just go pick up a crayon somewhere and start drawing on pieces of paper and napkins. And so I've been drawing for a very long time. Maybe not great drawings, but still I was creating art. And as I grew up, I kind of wanted to make a career out of it, and I loved watching movies and playing video games. And like when I was younger, my parents got me a DS, and so I'd play like Nintendogs and like the Zelda games on there, and that kind of inspired me. Like, I want to be able to make characters move. I want to be able to make these environments that I see like moving around and stuff. And through middle school, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And then in high school, I kind of shifted careers and wanted to be a vet. That didn't end up working out. My art teacher in high school really pushed me to do art again. And so I started doing more art, and then it just kind of happened that I found a college that had a new media career, is what they called it. And new media is like working with computer stuff, technology. So 3D art kind of came from there. And I think that's just really beautiful about technology, is that you can make it what you want to be. And with 3D art, like, you basically are creating something from a box or from a sphere and molding it into something else. And I think that's beautiful in its own way. It's just like how people make art when they sculpt, and traditionally with like clay or anything like that. It just so happens that we are on a computer, basically. So.
What inspires you creatively?
Okay, so creativity is a monster on its own. And I think the only way to develop your own creativity and keep inspiration alive within yourself is to continuously be looking for inspiration. So doing something outside of art, you have to have something that takes you away from that creative space so that you can like rejuvenate yourself, and you're able to come back and be like, wow, I have so many ideas. So I really like to go hiking. So I'll go hiking, or I'll play other games to try and like relax, or I'll watch movies. And then a lot of times just looking at other people's art as well and being like, wow, I really am interested in how they created this, or I really like the colors they used here. And it'll spark something, and you just follow that spark until you've got a nice little fire of your own. So that's how I would approach creativity, because it's such a monster, especially when people come up with like, oh, I have art block, I have this, and it's just continue creating, continue digesting things that make you happy, and then following that to find new inspiration.
What was your upbringing like?
Okay, yeah. So I think creativity, like if you have it and if you are creative, it expresses itself everywhere in your life. And so with me, like growing up, like the drawing, but it was also like I would go outside and pretend to like play animals with my animals, because I grew up on a farm, and so I would pretend to be a shepherd, or like a lot of like storytelling. I would pretend that leaves in my yard were like dragons. This was like really young, and so I would each leaf would be a different type of dragon, and so there's a lot of things like that where like you're just trying to express yourself and your thoughts and your ideas in any way. And I think like playing with toys a lot or drawing a lot, or I used to make videos on my sister's laptop, and they turned out horrible. Never watched them. They are embarrassing pieces of information that I wish never existed. But yeah, so if you just like creating, and in the like, I guess those would be the ways that it came out for me when I was younger, was just like drawing, thinking about different stories. I would be doodling in class, I would, a lot of times, like the only way that I would like really be able to learn or remember something was if I did something creative with that thing. So I think that's something as well, that like if you're always trying to connect like learning like your left side with your right side of your brain or whatever, like learning like math or something with something more creative, then you would probably be more of a creative and like thrive in a position like a 3D artist.
What do you love about your job?
Yeah, so like stuff that I love about 3D and like being in that space. Yeah. So the thing I really love about it is that the moment where something actually starts to come alive, like when you're creating it, it's like you're birthing something. It's like something new is coming from your imagination. Being able to see that come to life, that moment, you always get like this feeling of like, oh, it's coming together. So that like little happy moment is what I really like. And then in the 3D world, like you're able to rig objects and make them move. And I think that's beautiful too, because especially for someone who comes up with creative stories and like these characters and having like backgrounds for them, and then being able to rig it and make it move, it's like magic almost. You can see these things that it was just like a picture in your mind, and now it's moving in front of you in 3D space and other people can see it. I had a moment in college where it was my first 3D character class, and I created a little creature, and as I was rigging it, I was learning how to rig. I wasn't very good at it. I made its ear twitch for the first time, and I like broke down. I started crying. It was such a like a moment where I was like, wow, this is what I want to do, because like the passion just overflowed as I saw it. Like it moved its ear, and then I was able to move its head, and then it was walking, and then it was jumping, and it was amazing. So that's another thing that I really love about it, is like those little moments where like you do break down a little bit because what you're creating is so pretty. I also like the ability to iterate, which is mainly what like digital art is known for, is like it's really easy to change stuff because you can just erase it or put it on a separate layer or re-export a texture in my realm and everything like that. So like being able to iterate on something and being like, I don't like that color, I want something else, is like fantastic. And having the ability to do it so quickly too is really nice. It's another thing I really love about the 3D space that I work in.
How would you describe your career journey?
So for me, like my like career path into 3D and like into being here at Pipeworks was, I did art. You have to know the basics of art first. So when you're younger, when you're in middle school, high school, you really need to start studying the principles of design. I was taught Broomchev Papa, balance, rhythm, repetition, unity. I won't go through all of them, but there's a lot of them in there, and you really need to study those first, because once you have a handle on those, it transfers to any media of art very smoothly. You'll be able to pick out when something looks nice. You basically become a better observer of your world, and that translates to your artistic abilities and makes you better at that. So definitely like studying the basics first, and then going into if you want to do 3D and stuff like that, learning the softwares. So the softwares, they might be intimidating, but they're not as difficult as learning those basic design principles. That's why I say you really need to focus on those. Those are your key to leading into these other worlds of 3D and like 2D art and all that kind of stuff. And for me, after, like, because when I was in high school, I just drew, I just painted, I took like your normal like intro classes in high school. And then when I got to college, I was taking new media classes where they taught me those softwares. They help you learn a lot of that kind of stuff, but they still have like minors and stuff like that where you can still go and learn the principles of design again, and like you continue learning that, learning anatomy and stuff like that. That stuff really helps out with 3D and all of that stuff.
What kind of skills do you need to be successful in the work that you do?
Yeah, I think the skill that I probably use the most, it is like in those principles of design, is composition of work, because it applies to environment art and making a pleasing scene. So knowing composition really helps know where to place assets and stuff to lead the eye, to tell the story that needs to be told in a scene. So that's one skill, and that's learning those principles for that. Some other skills I think is just like knowing the softwares. I use Substance Painter, I use ZBrush, I use Maya, and I use these in order to create my art and everything. But you can just use Blender too. Blender is free. And I think it has an entire community of people who are continuously creating. And so if you really want to get started like early, if you like are super passionate about creating stories and creating art for games, I would highly recommend using Blender, because it's got sculpting, it's got texturing, it's got unwrapping, and YouTube. There's a ton of information out there where you can pull anything you need to learn off of there, and you'll be way ahead of where I was, even because I didn't start in high school. I started later on in college, but yeah.
Can you talk about the importance of representation in the work that you do?
Yeah. This is definitely something that has affected me since I was younger, especially throughout college. I would research and look at game companies to potentially work there, reach out for internships, especially like third year, second year, even when I was trying to like get my name out there and like network with people. And it can get a little sad sometimes when you look at those websites and like it's all men on like their like company pictures and stuff like that, and there's no females on there, and it's like, well, can I fit into that space? Am I able to work there and feel comfortable working there? And like all through high school or all through college, it was really a big stress on me. And we would have talks at my college. I was a part of a SIGGRAPH group, and they would bring in people from the industry to talk to us about being a woman in games or being a woman in film, and how there was a difference. There was an uphill battle that they seemed to have had to push against in order to begin working there. I think with a lot of the movements that are happening right now, it's a lot different. I think it's becoming a lot easier for women to find places within the game industry. Not that it's like super easy, but it's something that's possible now. And you like, even like looking at different companies, you're seeing a lot more women show up in those company photographs now. You're seeing that presence of women and other minorities as well popping up and being able to find places where they can make games and be accepted there. So.
Do you have any advice for students who might be interested in working in the profession?
I always have imposter syndrome. It never goes away. You're constantly, because the industry is constantly changing. There's new tools to learn. There's new pathways. There's new pipelines. There's constantly like new stuff being created that you have to learn how to do. And so I'm always like, I'm behind. I don't know enough. I don't. And I was lucky enough. I had a really good professor in college, and he basically told me to ignore all of that and just say yes. So whenever I get imposter syndrome and I'm like, I shouldn't be able to do this, like I'm not good enough to do this, I do it anyways. There's this thing on online where it's like, if you can't beat the fear, do it scared. And that's what I do all the time, is do things scared. And then once you're done with it, you'll realize I shouldn't have been afraid of that. It wasn't that scary to begin with. Applying to Pipeworks was one of those things. I started out here contract last summer, and I was like, I'm not even graduated yet. I don't know if I have the credentials to be working here. But I reached out to my friend who works here, and he was like, yeah, I'll send in your resume. And I got hired contract. And then I reached out again after I did graduate, and I got a permanent position here. So it's, you will never, as being a creative, you never lose the imposter syndrome. It never goes away, but you do learn how to cope with it, and it becomes a friend, and you ignore that friend constantly, and you push through, and you do things scared, and you realize that you shouldn't have been scared in the first place. And yeah, so I think that's how I really deal with it. And then you constantly learn stuff too. Like, having imposter syndrome is kind of like a good thing and a bad thing, because it pushes you to learn and to be better, because you'll be like, oh, I don't know how to do something, and then you'll go and learn how to do that thing, and then you'll be a better artist or a better designer because you've learned that. And so it really is a driving force behind like me being better at my job, as well as trying to beat it. So I think with life advice as well, is like, you're constantly going to be learning new things. And so branding yourself as a lifelong learner young, and being humble and being able to be like, I still have so much to learn, and then chasing the things that you want to learn is super important. And just in life in general as well, like, constantly be seeking out new information, stuff that you don't know. It's fun to have little fun facts and like be able to surprise people with stuff that you know. So constantly be digesting new information and seeking out the truth, and seeking out new ways to do things is super important, I think, in life in general. And I think I try and lead my life that way too. Anything that I don't know that sparks an interest with me, I go after it, and I go. Sometimes I go too deep into it, and I'll obsess over things a little bit too much, but that's okay, you know, like follow what you like, kind of stuff. And I think that's another like big thing. I know a lot of people will say it, but it's like, just be happy. Like, be able to, like, if you find something that makes you happy, don't let other people make you feel bad for it. Even if you think it's weird or if it's not cool or anything, like, just love it, because that's the most pure and the best thing that you can have. Like, I go on rampages about webtoons and mangas and comics, and when I was in middle school, high school, it wasn't the coolest thing. But as I've gotten older, like, you just own it, own what you love, and own what makes you special and unique, and I think you'll do really well in life.